What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media. This is, of course, the Truzz the Bank podcast. Myself and Joshua back in the off season. Going to try and do more of these podcast episodes. Also going to try and work on doing some live streams in the future, so stay tuned for that. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the podcast platforms if you want to watch all 3 or 4 segments, depending on how we split it up today. Or if you're listening on the podcast, you want to see video format, check out YouTube. I think there's also video on Spotify now as well. So make sure to follow, subscribe, and we got some of these questions and topics from our YouTube community section and Twitter. But Joshua, let's start it off with a question from YouTube from JJ12729. Said, expectations for year 2 of the Todd Monken offense, and will this be a year that the defense leans more on the offense? What are you thinking for Todd Monken year 2?
Man, that's a good question. The way I look at this year, granted, Todd Monken has been in the NFL previously before, but he has a new, set of weapons. He also got a, big, strong power back. I think we talked about this in previous episodes, McConnell, that, in every offense that Todd Monken has coached, he's at least had a power back, all the way from his Georgia days even to his Cleveland Brown days. So, having, Derrick Henry being there in the backfield, I think that definitely makes a difference. Not saying that, the previous running backs that was in his offense didn't complement his style of play, but, having a bruising back that can sometimes break it, even though he's 30 years old, he did put up 1,300 yards last year. I think we're going to see more development out of Lamar Jackson in the passing schemes. I mean, I would say honestly, for what we've seen in regards of the route trees of previous wide receivers groups, last year was a big upgrade. Granted, not every ball was catch, balls was overthrown, things of that nature. But, I mean, we definitely saw a little bit more creativity in our wide receiver room, especially out there on the field, and they wasn't, bunched up together. He used the 2 tight end set. So I definitely feel like we're gonna see a little bit more evolution. We'll possibly see some under the snap from Lamar Jackson. It's not to say that he never done it before, because I believe he did do it in his Louisville days, and he done a little bit sprinkle here and there in the Ravens offense, depending on the OC. So I feel like we'll see an evolution under the center. We're going to see that that Patrick Ricard, Derrick Henry combo, which honestly I'm buying into, and it's going to be a hell of a show. Seeing Pancake 42 and running back 22 go crazy. So I definitely see also our wide receivers. We don't have a vet in this wide receiver group outside of Nelly. For Todd Monken to say that he saw Rashad Bateman kind of blossom late towards the end of the year, I think he's expecting Rashad Bateman to have a big year, take a bigger step. So I definitely, we're going to see a little bit of everything in this offense this year, but it's definitely going to evolve from what we saw last year for sure.
Yeah, and when you're looking at what we saw last year out of Rashad Bateman, I think I saw somebody say this on Twitter, which was I completely agreed with, but they said, like, anybody who studies wide receivers and route running will tell you Rashad Bateman looks really good. Now, at the same time, the statistics aren't showing that. But I think the Ravens and Todd Monken are recognizing that this guy is getting open. And they had the entire offseason to look back and look at every play and every wide receiver when they're looking at the draft, right? This was a huge wide receiver draft. And I guarantee the Ravens, in addition to scouting all of those wide receivers and seeing, hey, do we want A.D. Mitchell or Keon Coleman in the first round or Xavier Worthy? Or do we want to go out there and look at other positions? And so they probably liked the wide receivers in this class. But I think what they realized was, hey, we also really like what we have in this building, because the Ravens could have very well gone wide receiver. And I don't think a lot of people would have been surprised, but they're not the ones going back and watching the Rashad Bateman tape. The advanced analytics on Rashad Bateman are like, this guy's one of the most wide open players in the NFL. And Todd Monken and Lamar Jackson, I think, need to recognize that and try and find more situations where you just get him the ball, which was essentially the Ravens offense 2 years ago. Remember in that week 1 game against the Jets, it was just like, find bait. And, he
Yeah.
runs the deep post and gets the big touchdown. But it was just like throughout the beginning of that season when Bateman was healthy, it was like, you can find him. He's open. I think it's like in his career, like his first 10 or maybe 15 catches were all for first downs. Like he was a big time playmaker. And this last year, I felt like we were trying to force the football to please Odell.
Yeah.
And I think not having Odell, even though I think like talent wise, losing Odell does hurt us,
Hmm.
I think it'll allow us to maybe give the ball to Bateman more and see what he can really do as a number 2 receiver in this offense. But also looking back at that same press conference, maybe it's a different one. I know Monken did a couple of press conferences recently, but he also talked about Derrick Henry and trying to get him a ton of carries, right? And he's like, he also talked about under center. And one of the things I liked about it, what he said, he's like, yeah, like that's typically what the Titans would do with Derrick Henry. Obviously, we're not the Titans.
Hmm.
We have Lamar Jackson. How beneficial is it to have Lamar Jackson under center? Like, you probably would rather have him in shotgun. And that's not an indictment on Lamar Jackson's ability to take a snap under center. It's
Yeah.
a recognition of his ability to run the read option and recognition of his ability to scare defenses when he's in shotgun or in pistol. I would expect that rather than a lot of under center action, we get a lot more pistol. So Derrick Henry's still running downhill when he gets the football. There's still the opportunity for the read option. It's just a little bit farther away from the line of scrimmage, but still allowing for Derrick Henry to get downhill. Because when we had guys like Keaton Mitchell, I don't think
Hmm.
we really needed a lot of pistol. That was
Yeah.
more like, oh, shotgun works. Same with Justice Hill. But with Gus, right, you get Patrick Ricard right next to Lamar and you get Gus right behind him. It's going to be even bigger than that outside of Lamar because he's a lot
Yeah.
smaller.
Yeah.
But
Now, I was about to say,
go
McCall,
ahead.
let me ask you this though. I know we love our 2 tight end sets. How beneficial with the way this wide receiver room is set up? Um, I'm I'm betting my money that that Walker, I'm the guy our
Yep.
newly drafted wide receiver. I'm betting he's going to beat Nelly out for that fourth or third wide receiver spot. How often would you like to see Big Zay lined up on the outside, Rashad Bateman in the slot, or either Rashad Bateman on the other outside and Zay Flowers in the slot? Because, and the reason I say that because Isaiah Likely brings another element. He can be our Jimmy Graham, our Aaron Hernandez, our Gronkowski. He knows how to win the jump ball situations. He can run a decent route. I'm not saying that he's faster than these corners, but he knows how to box out and makes himself available and get up the field with the ball in his hand. How do you feel about if we see some of those type of wrinkles in this year's offense?
I would love it if we saw that because I think last year Isaiah Likely showed that he is one of the best young tight ends, maybe not even just young, just like one of the best pass catching tight ends in the NFL. Isaiah Likely is very good with the ball in the air, with the ball in his hands. He can do it all. And so having Mark Andrews probably in almost every snap,
Hmm.
we're going to have to find ways to get Isaiah Likely on the field. And I think a lot of people would agree with me on this. I would rather, including last year, I would rather have Isaiah Likely on the field than Odell being like, oh, this is where we want to throw to. And so, yes, we lost Odell, we lost a wide receiver, but in reality, this is going to allow for bigger sets, which also helps running the football. Is just, oh, all of a sudden now we got 2 6'5" tight ends on the field, and we got Patrick Ricard in the backfield,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and we can still pass, right? We're not going out there like the Detroit Lions where they throw an extra tackle out there at tight end. And yeah, sure, they can do like a quote unquote trick play and throw to him. The Ravens can be deadly with fullback, running back, maybe 2 running backs, and 2 tight ends on the field. They can still get you deep. They can still get you on a deep crosser. So I definitely would love to see that, Joshua. I also think that we have to look at how the Ravens offense evolved last year. I
Mm-hmm.
think the Ravens offense started off pretty slow, and we were all like, man, Todd Monken. It was like, he's trying to figure it out. Give him some time. And at the end of the year, we started to see some really good play designs where, we get a underneath drag route near the goal line that gets uncovered. I think we did it twice. We did one Patrick Ricard. I think that was in the 49ers game. Patrick Ricard got the touchdown, but then Nelson Aguilar, maybe the next week or 2 weeks later, I don't remember what game it was in, he ended up running a very similar concept. Again, wide open in the end zone because Todd Monken started to figure out hey, what if we fake the rollout? The Ravens specialty, the Greg Roman vault play of let's roll Lamar to the right and flood the right side. All of a sudden, Todd Monken will be like, all right, let's do play action. Lamar look right. You have that guy sneaking out as a drag, hit him quickly in the end zone. I expect to see that again this year. I think Nelson does a good job running that. Any of the tight ends can run that. But, Joshua, I like what you were saying. Tez Walker could definitely see a good amount of snaps. I don't necessarily think it'll be early, but I think towards the end of the season, we're going to start seeing Tez Walker out there a lot more. And I think we'll also see him early, more of his deep threat ability.
Yeah.
We're not throwing jump balls to him, but he has the speed to get behind the defense, and he can track the football. We have not had that in this offense since Hollywood. Except Hollywood's problem was he couldn't catch. Like, if Tez can catch the deep ball, which we need to see, he did in college, he could be an absolutely dynamic piece to this offense. The one piece we've been missing is the deep ball, and Lamar needs to make sure he gets that chemistry with it.
I definitely agree with that. So, I mean, part two of that question. Would the defense lean more on the offense? I mean, I know we got a new DC and everything of that nature, but, I mean, we got a guy, he's been in the facility. Do you feel like the defense, and we lost a couple players, do you feel like the defense is going to lean more on the offense?
I don't think so. I just think that this defense is so many stars. Like, if we didn't have Kyle Hamilton, I would probably say yes. But because we have both Roquan and Kyle Hamilton and, first round pick Nate Wiggins at corner, we have veterans in Marlon Humphrey, I don't even think this defense necessarily got worse. Now, it completely depends on what Zachary Orr does, and we'll talk about that later. Right. But in terms of, if you looked at this defense's depth chart and compared it to last year's, right? What are the differences? Okay, we're missing our safety 3 in Geno Stone.
Yeah.
We're missing our linebacker, our backup linebacker, or our number 2 linebacker, Patrick Queen. We replaced him with Trenton Simpson. But we added or replaced Ronald Darby with first-round pick Nate Wiggins. I don't necessarily think that's worse. And also, you have to consider Brandon Stevens had his breakout last year. Can he get better? Can he improve on that? Kyle Hamilton's going into year 3, right? This is Marcus Williams wasn't even healthy most of last year. If he's playing, we don't even see Geno Stone. So it's not
very true.
Geno Stone was the backup, and everyone will look at but he had 7 interceptions. It's yeah. He had 7 interceptions, and Marcus Williams got healthy, and Geno Stone went right back to the bench. And he plays snaps, but he was not a starter anymore. Even though he was playing well, the Ravens still went hey, we still want Marcus Williams out there. And Marcus Williams was clearly injured. Clearly. He couldn't lift his arm. Yeah. And people were like, man, he just can't play coverage. And it was yeah, he can't lift his arm, but he's still better than Geno. And now he's going to have a healthy shoulder. He's going to be able to, go for those swats, go for those interceptions, and make those big plays that Marcus Williams does. So I expect a huge bounce back from him. And I think that I don't think either is going to be leaning on each other. I think it's just going to be a good compliment. Chew the clock on offense, wear them down, still have big plays, but wear them down, and physical defense. That's exactly what, the Ravens are just going to play physical football all around, and they're all going to complement each other. They're not going to rely on each other, just complement.
I mean, me personally, You know me, I'm a trenches guy. I love my front seven guys. I think the defense will lean more on the offense this year, if anything. Yes, we still have Roquan Smith. I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm bought into the idea of looking forward to Trenton Simpson in year two, especially getting all the snaps and starting as the weak inside linebacker. I love the fact that Brandon Stevens finally started coming alive and had a breakout season. We also get Pepe back. Jalen Armour Davis, he has a chip on his shoulder. Like you just mentioned, we have Nate Wiggins. We also got, all pro Marlon Humphrey that's going to be on the field as well. So, if anything, yes, we lost some pieces, but we definitely shored up some pieces. The only pieces that I have some concern, personally, I know we already talked about this in a previous episode. Adafio Way, he's not no big, double-digit sack guy. We all know that, of course. But we did lose out production of a Jadeveon Clowney. Granted, yes, we brought in a Kyle Van Noy. Tyus Bowser didn't even play the whole season. So now you're about to ask Malik Harrison to possibly take those type of reps that Tyus did. Or, you're getting David Ojabo back as well. And you don't know what David Ojabo you getting back per se. So, I do feel like that, and also Justin Matabika got paid. And sometimes, when our guys do get paid, you don't always see the best production out of guys. Not saying that Justin Matabika is going to get lazy or anything. I feel like, he's going to be that driving force in the middle of that defense. But we can't, generate the pass rush, get to the QB like how we supposed to be with our young gunners on those outsides with David Ojabo and Adafio Way in certain games. I feel like the defense will be leaning on the offense more to, put the pressure on teams and consistently score. We saw last year where we done got down the field and sometimes, either we're 4th and out or maybe we're settling for field goals. Or maybe, just maybe, because of the analytics and the numbers and everything else outside of, just the game of football, we're going for it on 4th and whatever. And sometimes it's not always successful. But I do feel like, this year's defense, because we haven't even though he's been around the locker room, we still got some all-star pieces, all-pro pieces around in this defense. I feel like the defense may lean a little more on the offense to complete and finish the games and make it more substantial wins.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to see a situation where the offense has to just get bailed out by the defense.
Yeah,
which in Ravens playoff history, under the Lamar Jackson era, when they've lost, it's typically been the offensive coordinator just being like, "Save us, defense, please." Like we just can't do anything, right? The Ravens shut out or didn't allow a single touchdown after the first 2 Chiefs drives, and the Ravens couldn't do anything on offense. So the Ravens defense is definitely going to need the offense to finish games. They're going to need a lot of things out of this.